'Tis good to be amongst you again, with the temperature at 16 degrees, and it's cloudy, September 15th. I think this just might be the right time to reinstate what I did for the first 6 months of this year, and that is my podcast called This Much Is True. Yes, with a cloudy atmosphere and some candles in the background, and nobody else really up. They're all in the land of Nod. Just me, you, and a cup of coffee. I think we will press the button marked Go again on this project, and I shall dedicate the show to the lovely Sue in Yorkshire, who is looking out for me and contacted me a few days ago. Needn't worry, Sue. I had every intention of kind of putting this thing back on the rails to some degree, maybe a lesser degree. And no, I don't make any money out of it at all. But it's a project, and I suppose I chronicle what's going on in my life, and maybe as I observe the world as well. But first, I had a great laugh last night. We had some friends over, and you know the way you just... I just get a notion to do something crazy. Well, sorry to the animal cruelty people, but, you know, the cat was hanging around. So it was just a group of friends, as I said. Someone was strumming a guitar. There was music in the background. We just decided to amuse ourselves. So we had some... We had one of the guys had the car broken down, and he had this kind of jerry can thing full of petrol. So the cat was just minding its business at its milk, and we decided we'd just pour a little bit of petrol in just to see what effect it would have on the cat. Just bear with me. So nothing at first, and then it started to kind of wobble a bit. And the poor old Moggy didn't know where he was coming or going, and he started running and running around in circles. And we were having conniptions, just laughing our heads off. And the cat was like, you know, when it's chasing its tail, going around and around and around and around. I suppose you want to know what happened next. Well, it ran out of petrol. I got you there, didn't I? In fact, I've just had a session with my pussy, if you pardon the expression. I came down early this morning. Marvin was in his basket, and before he could get away, I grabbed him. And Marvin is, he's such a dote. He's one of these tuxedo cats. And, you know, the white chest and the black. And I lifted him up, and he likes to look out the back door. We have a window in the back door, and he likes to look out that. So he was in ecstasy, and so was I, giving him a good rub, and he was loving it. So, you know, when the old purring kicks in, it's very therapeutic. Now, I want to talk Knickers, which isn't really too much off the beaten track for this podcast. But I thought to myself, Knickers, and before I think of mine, how about yours? What did you start? Okay, I can share, but I won't, a picture of me in diapers. But the knickers is the first thing you put on, or the underpants. Unterhosen in Germany, as I was reliably informed by a German boyhood friend. Why we were discussing that shall ever remain secret. No, it was just typical me. What's underpants in German? Unterhosen. God, he was a beauty as well. He was an angel. He was like the blonde, blue-eyed thing. And his family, I'm going off on a diversion tour here. His family had, as he described to me, his family had fled Germany after Rommel was killed. Rommel, General Rommel, had to, you know, choose between a Luger and cyanide or his family. And he chose the cyanide. Anyway, that's a different story. So my first recollection is of navy knickers. I was put, maybe that's why I've got such a empathy with the feminine. Yes, for a good while, you know, certainly up to 7 or 8, I suppose, maybe a bit younger, I was in these navy knickers. And I remember being conscious in the playing area area, the playing or the changing rooms of the playing grounds as a child for sports and stuff, that other guys had these kind of little Y fronts on. And I had this navy knickers with no like hole in the middle for your little bits to go pee through. I'd have to pull the whole knickers down when I had to do that. Do you really need to know this? No. Am I putting you off your cornflakes? Good. But it was a navy knickers. And one day I was changing again, very self-conscious of this, and I noticed another guy had the same navy knickers. So suddenly we'd cancelled each other out. I didn't say it to him, but I went, thank God, a fellow knicker wearer. And then at some stage I gravitated towards the little white fronty things. I don't know why they make them in white, because it's not a particularly good idea down below, is it? Especially boys. And I do remember, though, then once I got to about 20 or so, not knickers, the age, I had a girlfriend, and she got me a birthday or Christmas present of these boxer shorts, which I remember the only connection I'd had with them, but I'd see them in American movies and think they were hilarious, you know, just like, who'd wear something like that? But she got me the boxer shorts, you know, the ones with the little love hearts, or the little, it was either that or, you know, the lipstick little marks, not real lipstick. Well, I suppose that could have happened later on, but lipstick marks all over the jocks, if you like. And I remember going, I'll never wear those. I've never been out of them since. Not the same pair, I hasten to add, but various types of boxer shorts now is my chosen weapon of choice. I particularly like ones that have a kind of a lift and separate. You remember the bras used to do the same? They have a kind of gusset on them. So yeah, I'm talking pants, basically. And before you start sniggering at me or thinking this is in bad taste, I'm sure you are in some kind of underwear as well. And you really should choose its lineage, or at least reflect on it. I see a trend, particularly among women, for what I would just describe now as tooth floss, basically. You know, this little strip of a thing. That is like a cheese cutter going through your butt. I don't know how you wear those. Now, I did discover, and I'll say it because he's all retired, on my one of my brothers, who's based out in Vietnam. I know he wears the ones with the big crotch thing, but the strap thing is going up through the crack of his arse as well. But I'm told that's to allow the buttocks breathe. Now, no more talking about that, but I did think this much is true. Back on the rails, let's lower the tone in the good old traditional sense that I've always done. So I was away. And I suppose I was reflecting just how lucky I've been. In the last year, I've been in Venice, Madrid, and just freshly back, only a day or two, from New York. Now, I won't even say a love-hate relationship with New York. I had, past tense, a hate relationship with New York. For me, especially when you're in Times Square at night, you know, the touristy bit, but it used to feel, I suppose, too many Charles Bronson movies. It used to feel very intimidating to me. And last time I was there, not the most recent, but 2017 I was there. 2000 I was there, just the year before the towers came down, because I actually saw the towers, and I remember the only word I could use was wow. And I was on that former site only a few days ago. It's completely different now. I made a little video of it. I might put it up at some stage, where the commemoration end of things is there with the water flowing. And anyway, so I was always kind of edgy in New York, and thought of it as a frenetic kind of mad place where it was dangerous. Now, I know a lot had changed since the 70s. Giuliani and his crew cleaned up a lot there. In fact, there's a book behind me called Leadership. It's quite revealing as to the policy they adopted, which was zero tolerance when it came to crime and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, all was to change. Why is that, Mark? Well, I ended up in Brooklyn. Doesn't sound particularly glamorous, but Brooklyn is... This is a big thing for me to say, because I'm very set in my ways now, and Ireland is my home and where I will die. You know, I think I could up sticks in the morning and live in Brooklyn. I was in a place called Brooklyn Heights. And it was everything good about New York. And I have to say New York in general, as I spent a few days in it rather than a day or two, which I'd previously done, I suppose. No, I spent a week in it in 2000. But anyway, who cares? But the weather was perfect. I can honestly say to you, I had one afternoon of rain when we weren't out. And we hit the ground running. You know, normally you take a day maybe for the jet lag. No, we were out on Brooklyn Bridge. And in Brooklyn Heights, literally 30 yards from where we were in this beautiful, if you can imagine the brownstone buildings, the traditional brownstone. There was extreme wealth on the one hand, definitely. I spotted Matt Damon and he had two beautiful women with him. Now, they weren't like Dolly Birds or, you know, Good Time Gals. They could have been his daughters. I only got a glance, but I knew it was Matt Damon. And he had a nice turtleneck on him. So they could have been anyone, but they were all happy. A threesome kind of walking along. Within a minute or two, I'm pretty sure I saw Bernie Saunders. Now, I could be wrong on that, because I caught sight of him again a few days later, and I wondered, But on TV this morning, I kind of went, no, that was him, because he showed up on TV. Because I'm up so early, like. Without knowing it, my daughter, who'd heard that I'd seen him, Googled, and sure enough, Matt Damon has a $15 million pad in Brooklyn Heights. So it got to have been him. To be that young and to have that amount of money and to, it's a different world, isn't it? But within 30 yards, we were on, you could go down and everyone was sitting out civilly, right? Black and white, harmonious, beautiful. You know, which is what it's kind of as the melting pot thing. It should be as the world should be, but isn't. So civilized, tranquil. Picture all that civility and good food and people relatively to well dressed, and a pace of slowing down. Also, just when you'd overhear people. I have to say, to my shame, I'm a fuck this, fuck that kind of guy, like a lot of Irish people and English people, and even American people as well. But generally, in conversation I overheard, there was no expletives. Like I heard two little guys, they were about 6 or 7 years of age, behind myself and my wife as we were walking along. They were discussing the latest computer game they'd got and the pros and cons of it and the excitement in their voices. And I was thinking to myself, I haven't heard one expletive from those two little chaps. And later on, as I got into town as well, you'd see pretty well-to-do kids that had the little uniforms on, crests and blazers and stuff. So, you know, it's not an old thing. Now, of course, there were more hip and older kids as well with the street gear on them. But I keep saying it to you. Anyway, so I was 30 yards away. Literally, we would go straight down the road, the street, and there would be, you know, that panoramic view that you always see of New York? You know, so this was Brooklyn Promenade. We looked at, take it your pick, we looked out on. So, you know, where the Twin Towers used to be, at night there's this two huge beams of light that go right up and touch clouds, or touch a cloud I saw in particular. It was amazing. It was like they'd pointed it to hit this particular cloud. Now, it just happened to be there. That's at night time they switch those on, and I think they're there kind of as almost like a eternal flame type thing too. And of course I was there on the anniversary, September 11th as well, which was because I remember where I was 23 years ago, exactly as we all do if we were alive. But to see that panoramic, you know, waterfront, it's the word I'm looking for, right in front of you, and helicopters bobbing around at all times of the day. But we got there, we wanted to get there for sunset, and we were just as the sun was going down, this beautiful deep red glow going right down the horizon. Oh, so we did all the usual stuff, of course, like got on the Staten Island ferry, and away we went to see the Statue of Liberty, which to my mind had gotten smaller. Now, we didn't go up onto it this time, but I suppose I did years ago, and that's why it always reminded me of that it was a big thing. I've a daughter in New York, so I was pleasantly surprised to see she took us to where she works, and she, even though she's very business qualified, like a lot of young folk, they take waitressing jobs, and she's quite well tipped there and remunerated. And she loves the place. In fact, I think her heart's there now in the States. But she's there for probably another year, and possibly this is her second time there. And she's only like 23. But we saw where she worked, and it was open plan, and not even that. There were no real solid walls. It was all thickened glass. So it was like this capsule right there around in the whole area of kind of, say, Madison Square Garden and that. She was as happy as Larry. She took us in. She wasn't like embarrassed to have her sister and her parents with her. Not at all. It was like, hey, Joe, hi, Mary, hi, Sue. And everyone knew each other, and they were all roughly the same age and just working hard. That was just before our Broadway show. And then she said, there's another bar that's a sister bar. Come across into that. And we did. And we went right into a meet and greet just by accident. But we got spoiled. In fact, I didn't get pissed, but I was given free beer, right? Stella Artois were hosting a meet and greet for a Grand Slam finalist in tennis. Beautiful guy, lovely black man called Francis Tiafoe. God, to see him in operation. He's only 26, but he was there. And of course, he made sure the crest of the drink was in his hand for any, selfies and stuff. But he was a gentleman. Beautiful, handsome guy. I'm trying to think of the actor. You see him sometimes now in Equalizer. That kind of guy, Denzel Washington type. So that was privileged. I was there, fussed over. It was great. But New York, the point I'm trying to make is I reevaluated. I used to say stupid things right up until recently. If I never saw America again, it wouldn't bother me. I've been to the States several times, and I think what happens is you get back into your set in your ways, and travel does broaden the mind. In fact, just before I came out, that sounds odd, isn't it? Anyway, just before I came out to the States, I wasn't, even though things are all right. I mean, look, I'm pretty much retired. If I want, I can retire. But I don't want to retire. Certainly not at 61 years of age. I just don't see myself ever retiring. So the voice work keeps me going. But the projects had been lean in the last, dare I say, quarter. I used to say in my sales career, never worry about a bad month, worry about a bad quarter. And this quarter wasn't too good, despite the fact the year had started really well. And that as well is a thing. I was getting fed up. I was good at something I was kind of getting no longer interested in. So I was in a bit of a before I went over to get my shot of Americana. Not Americano. And I loved it. And I could probably live there in the morning. I'm not... Listen, my head isn't spun by a few days in New York. I'm around long enough. I mean, you'd have to be settled there, and you'd have to be able to afford the kind of places that were there. And it's not easy, but I know why my daughter loves it. And the subway, of course, again, flashes of Charles Bronson, of course, like every other city. I got to make this point as well to you. I felt, by large, safer in New York than I certainly do in parts of Dublin right now, because there's no policing structure to speak of in Ireland. we've the same problems as you have in the UK, and I'm not going to go there with all that stuff. But you know what's kind of has been happening. So it's how do I put it to you? Right, somebody the other day who shouldn't be even in this country pulled a fucking knife on a schoolboy in Dublin, right? And the two of them were going at it, except the schoolboy didn't have a knife. He had a set of balls, all right. But you're going, what the hell is this 20-something-year-old guy wielding a frickin' knife at a child? I mean, anyway, so back to New York. Of course stuff goes on there. But in general, out and about during the day and even at night, to a large extent, I didn't feel anything like that. The subways, as I experienced them, were safe. You get crackheads and fentanyl. Yes, you do. You see them around. My daughter's well aware of that. So she goes, oh, avoid that guy or. But there wasn't much to speak of. And it was funny as well to see how this young woman has transformed. Because it was hilarious in some ways. She knows she's streetwise. So she knows all the kind of tricks with New York, as you would if you were living there. And years ago, we have a system here called a DART system. I might have said the story to you before. If I have repeated myself, I apologise. It's been a while. And it's a local transport. It's a tram type system here. And when she was 7 or 8, one day we were all going back up the railway track and we realised we hadn't got our pass cards with us. And so we said, oh, look, we'll chance it. And if an inspector comes on, we'll just explain what happened. We went to do that. And my daughter threw a wobbler as a child. Well, I can't get on. We're breaking the law. We'll be arrested. All this kind of crack. And to see her fast forwarded, right, to New York with her sister, who's only 2 years younger, and her saying, don't worry, there's no cops at this station. She knows you can. She didn't jump the turnstile, but there's a trick a lot of them do. They double up. So you get 2 people through for the price of 1. And she pulled that stunt in front of my eyes with her sister, and the 2 of them thought this was hilarious. No fear of the law, no fear of being arrested, even though they're in New York. And I'm going, Jesus, if you stick around long enough in life, how things change. Eh? Have I bored you with my New York? Well, I just say, Brooklyn Heights, thank you. You have rejuvenated me, and as do hunky-dories. Now, I'm going to stop talking about New York because I think your eyes are glazing over. Since I've been away, how about that? Which has gone over 2 months now. Well, I'd planned that I was going to lose weight. Didn't. No. And it's a disgrace because, I've had health issues in the cardiac arena. But yeah, I'm very... I put it this way, I pretty much get my 10,000 steps in every day, certainly 8 to 10,000. I'm very active. I move around quite a lot. But the hunky-dories, I was nipping in here last night to watch a guilty pleasure of mine, and it's not porn. And my wife likes to get stuck into Breaking Bad, would you believe, on Netflix. So I come in here, but on my way, she had a big bag of all these crisps, because we're supposed to have visitors over again. And I just said, fuck that, I'm grabbing a pack of these and I'm going to take the hit. Because she'd give out to me, why are you eating those in your condition? I don't give a shite, I'm having me hunky-dories. So I didn't lose the weight. And as I said, I got a bit down. I got fed up. Into meditating, though, that's pretty good. I recommend, can't show you this. I can I? I go online anyway, check him out. In fact, I think I'm going to Glasgow next month to see him. Saw him earlier this year in Dublin. Jack Black. Oh, good. The Wheel of Life. We'll talk about that. Jack Black is one of these motivators. He's a Scottish guy. Like a lot of people that do that kind of stuff, you will always get people saying, charlatan, charlatan. I don't care. I don't believe he's a charlatan. I believe in his system, which is called Mind Store. It's literally just about getting your head right and reviewing the past, but not to any great extent, really concentrating on the now and the future. And yeah, Jack Black, not the actor, which I can't stand that guy. I attend him because he's got this beautiful kind of Scottish accent. It's a burr, isn't that what they call it? And I could forgive Jack anything. You know, Jack could come in to me and say, I just murdered 7 people on the subway. And I'd say, Jack, with that voice, they fucking had it coming to them. I could forgive you anything, Jack. No, I don't advocate murder on the subway or any other form of transport or life in general. So, speaking of life, here's a good little exercise you can do. So, it's basically to take I'm not going to show you mine because it's personal. You show me yours, I'll show you mine. But basically, you do something like this, right? Okay, it's called a wheel of life. And if you don't have the software or whatever, don't worry about it. Just take something like that, do a circle, and then divide your life up into like the little spokes of a wheel and give each a name as to a part of your life. So you can often start at your marriage or your partnership. Give yourself marks out of 10. So 10, oh my God, it's like full throttle. Life is fantastic. Now, I don't think anybody has a marriage that's 10. All right. But you can get pretty close if you find the right woman, like I did, who puts up with a lot. But I adore her. I'm often reflecting on that. At least I got something right in my thick life. I got my beautiful wife and 2 beautiful daughters. But if you're 1, well, you're going to be locked up. So 1 to 10, give yourself a mark. And you usually end up like something probably like that. I have to say, on the social front, which has improved, I've met people recently, but I had gotten dangerously into the recluse thing. I mean, family, fair enough. Steve, pop over, my best friend, every so often, but just shunning away. And certainly before I'd left, I had Skype called somebody directly to do with business. I had spoken to an old DJ friend of mine who's still on air. Hello, Jerry Healy. And I'd met coffee. I'd met a friend, another DJ, funny enough, from my old days on radio. I met him for coffee. So I was getting out again. What I did find, though, is, and I didn't like it, I came back afterwards and I took some notes, is what happens if you are very reclused. Is that a word? What would John Lennon have called it? Isolation. Isolation is when you do get out again. You could go 2 ways. You could still be Johnny No Mates and have, be told. I go worse than that. I go animated. So I start dominating the conversation, and very little of what they say to me goes in. It's all about me, and I realised that. And it's back to that Beatles thing, isn't it? Something inside that was always denied. Why am I going all Beatlesque this morning? I don't know. In other words, company, companionship. Whereas my phone used to never stop ringing in business. It went to nowadays, if it rings, I let it ring out. The reason for that is, like you, I'm getting so many hoax calls. DHL or Amazon, the fake ones. And my reckoning is, if they want me, they're going to leave a message. And generally they don't, because 9 out of 10 times it's those crappy hoax calls, or coming in from Nigeria saying that Grandad so-and-so was killed in a rebellion but has decided to leave me, Johnny No Mates, in Ireland, $10 billion. And all I got to do is give them the access to my account. So I had to check myself, saying, next time you meet someone, shut the fuck up and give and take. Give and take. Not. I'm sure probably at least one of those people doesn't want to talk to me again. The guy I Skyped. Yeah, I think I just might have blew his mind. He was a publisher. And I was, I started pitching a book I had. It's still out there, by the way. The Man Who Chased Joggers. Go get it. It's on Amazon and it's on Audible if you want a voiceover bit. And then I realised this guy's into factual publication, and his eyes were glazing over, not fictional or comedic. Now, we've been going forever here, haven't we? 29 minutes 44. I bet that was a mistake tuning in. So hello to the old crew, and congratulations to Tara, who's now Granny Tara. with a lovely young fella in her life. We call him Aston Martin, and he's fine, a lovely baby boy. And to the parents as well, congratulations. Jerry, hello. And, of course, Nigel. Nigel's gone quiet. Nigel from the Black Stuff, who lives in Mayo. Which reminds me, I bought a horse recently. I call him Mayo. Sometimes mayonnaise. Please, yeah, don't give up the day job. What is the day job? That's a question. So who was I saying hello to? Yeah, and of course, Sue. Sue, I felt you, if you pardoned it. I felt you around. I felt your presence, Sue. And Sue contacted me at thismuchistrue@protonmail.com. So should you. So, hi, Sue. That's what Cliff Richard used to say. I remember Sue Barker. He used to date her, the tennis player. Hi, Sue. Hi, Sue. Power to all our friends. I'm showing my age now. Have I left anyone out? My namesake, you know who you are, a fellow Manning, and he jousts and stuff, or dresses up as a knight, don't you? Yeah, you do. Yeah, and I know there are others who, you know, and I see this on LinkedIn as well. Over 50% of the people who check me out regularly are in the media on LinkedIn. So it's interesting what you can do with demographics and statistics these days. So there are people as well on YouTube who do look in here, and you know who you are, but they don't make contact. They don't make eye contact. Contact with eye. Which reminds me, I saw the Bob Marley movie on the airplane on the way over. What did you say about I? I'm trying to do a Jamaican accent badly. In fact, I've battered it. My apologies to all you lovely Jamaicans. The closest I've ever got there to Jamaica was Barbados. Oh, God. Can I talk about Barbados for a little bit? The sands were talcum powder white. And we drove around in these things called mini mokes. Like, you know, the little open, like the little Jeep. This was 1990. And there were these guys, and I envied them. They were like designer Rasta, you know, and they'd lay about. They're like an exotic animal, right? And they'd lay about, you know, literally in the curve of a palm tree, with amazing bodies, you know, all the pecs, beautiful tight stomachs, tall guys with the dreadlocks, man. And they'd come over to the ladies and go, "Hey, you, honey, beautiful." I'm sure they shagged from sunset to frickin' sunrise and drank as much drinks as the tourists would give them and lived that life almost like a cat or an animal which just exists and survives, not necessarily, you know, with food, but on shagging and charm. And have I outrun my course? Well, maybe try and do, look, if you get nothing else out of this, try and do your circle of life. Give yourself marks out of from 1 to 10, 10 being fantastic, 1 being locked up. And then the idea is you try and improve. Like I saw that my social life was shit. I mean, it was like 2 or something. And I moved it out to probably 3 or 4 now. And I continue to go. Anyone want to Skype me directly? You can do that. We can talk. Just contact me at thismuchistrue@protonmail.com. Now, I set that for the time that I set it, which is 9:20, for a very specific reason. I have appeared on his show, although I've gone a bit too gammon-like. His name is Richie Allen. I want to give him a shout-out. Oh, that's so fucking DJ, isn't it? And Richie hails from County Waterford, originally. And he was with the mainstream media here for years. He worked with WLR down in Waterford. Believe it or not, he became a friend of David Icke. David Icke. Everyone has an opinion on him, just like Bono. I happen to have a pretty good opinion on David Icke, believe it or not, because I opened my mind. And he became friendly with him. He did a lot of radio in Spain as well, but now he resides in what's it called? Salford in Manchester. And he has a show on from Mondays to Thursdays called The Richie Allen Show, funny enough. And you'll get it. And he talks to guests. And if you listen to Richie, first of all, he's kind of rough and ready. And I remember thinking, geez, I can't listen to this guy. But no, it's all about content. And you soon appreciate Richie's accent and his intellect more than anything else. Because he's an insightful, he's charismatic, he's very funny. Richie Allen. And I listened to him. And he invited me on his show there recently. I thought I ran off in the mouth a bit. But why the fucking clock's gone off? Because his show is 10 years old today. His show is 10 years old. And he started out with, I have one here, a little Bayer mixer and a few very, very rudimentary bits of equipment. He now has a lovely studio in his house, which he shares with his lovely partner. And they're two dogs. They've got these, and they're dog lovers. They have an Alsatian and a Labrador, I think. And I love Richie Allen. And congratulations to anybody. Here's me coming back after a 2-month break. He's on air now, you know, all that time. He's got 60,000 plus followers on Twitter. He's got many times more that on a daily listenership. The show just about cleans its face, but it's enough for him and his partner to get by. It's funded totally by listeners, and I recommend the Richie Allen Show. Just go Google, get him on Podomatic if you want, Podomatic, and you can listen to back episodes there. And he rails against what his former employer was, you know, the mainstream media, because he's a journalist and he reckons they spin stories on behalf of whoever, and he's not wrong, is funding them. I mean, we have the situation here where the national broadcaster has become Pravda, essentially. Why is that? Well, journalism kind of died in the last few years, for sure. The whole COVID thing exposed that. And it really is, it amounts to who pays you, right? And in our national broadcaster's case, they failed monumentally through, and this is open, you know, this is open source, it's in the domain. I mean, through just sheer corruption. And did I just spit there? Anyway, apologies. Corruption and, you know, jobs for the boys and girls, stifling any new talent. In fact, I have to go on one now, but I'll keep it short because I've gone on way too long. But hey, I've been away 2 months. I flicked over the other night. Now, the penultimate flagship show is known on RTE in Ireland, is known as The Late Late Show. And for many years, it was the domain of probably one of the best broadcasters in the world, the late Gay Byrne. And Gay Byrne commanded that show. And it was very controversial at the time. There wasn't any other competition to speak of. Even in the UK, in broadcasting circles, everybody knew just how professional and great Gay Byrne was. And he ran his course after many years. It's the longest running TV chat show in the world at this point. But it's probably outlived its relevance. It's in the last 20 years or so. So there's a few presenters in the interim. One is Ryan Tuberty, who works now in London after Scandal. Not necessarily saying he was and wasn't. I'm going, fuck, right. He's over in the UK now. Tainted Tuberty, as I call him, because his name is kind of tainted here. And there's a new kid in town since last year called Paddy Kilty. Now, Paddy Kilty started life as a comedian. You might know in the UK, Cat Deely, that's his wife, his good lady. I knew Paddy way back. Not like, I'm not going to make out I was bosom buddies with him, but I came runner-up to him. So this isn't me being bitter, by the way. Just hold your wished. I came runner-up to him in a show which is more prestigious than I thought, called So You Think You're Funny. But that was sponsored by Bulmers. I still think it exists. I don't know who sponsors it now. It's a biggie. It's a big show. And I was only part-time doing the circuit. I was full-time in business at the time. So I showed up in 1992. There was a gaggle of comedians. I came runner-up to Paddy Keelty and somebody else, because it was joint first with him, who was never heard of again. But anyway, Paddy now hosts the Late Late Show. You can't dislike the guy, but I think it's Late Late light. It's, you know, he's a comedian, and an all right comedian. He used to be very on fire, and God love him, he lost his father was shot dead in the Troubles. But so I flicked over, and as well as the show being flagship, every year it hosts this thing called, and I do remember it fondly from my days as a child, called the Late Late Toy Show, the Christmas Toy Show. So every year Gay Byrne used to bring on all the gadgets that were available in the 70s. Buckaroo! Remember that, yeah? Operation, me fucking kidney. All that's kind of the games that we all play. Remember Stretch Armstrong? You'd stretch the bollocks out of him and he kept going. Oh my God, you know, where most of us wouldn't hold out 2 minutes in Abu Ghraib or Castlereagh. This guy, you could pull the bollocks out of him and he'd still Stretch Armstrong. No, actually we did. Myself and a mate did actually break him one day, and we found this kind of silicone in. Yeah, but so it's a show that's always anticipated with great excitement amongst the young kids. You know what I mean? The smell of Woodbine, wet knickers and oranges. You know, ooh, it's going to be the Late Late Toy Show. Now, unfortunately, what they perceive as being kids, I find oftentimes, now not always, but they're little owl fellas and owl ones before their time. You know, that kind that have too much to say. You know, and they really make you kind of go, children should be seen and not heard. Nobody minds a child being a child, but a child being a precocious fucking pain in the ass, right, which some of them are. You know, I saw one, now I did not linger, because the Late Late ain't my thing anymore. But I flicked over it, so they were announcing it, and they had a row of these little owl fellas and owl ones. And one of them, she had her foot up. She couldn't just sit like a normal child. You know, she had to have the leg up on the chair, like she owned the bloody place. But you can't. And nurtured you. But, God, she tempted fate with me. I was going to take up by the scruff of the neck. Get that fuck out. Anyway, that's just me being bloody owl fella, you know. That's just me being an owl fella. But I mean, I don't like it. You know, really, if you want to do that show, take the goddamn cameras. I think they might have, but at some point, take them into the hospitals, take them into the underprivileged kids, right? That station is being propped up now by the government, which led me to financially, instead of being wound up or broken up, it's been propped up to the tune of 750 million, I think now. This is the latest. And whereas there are very good people in RTE, don't get me wrong, and very talented people, the central nervous system of it was filthy and corrupt for many years. Oh, you're bitter out, bollocks, aren't you? Yeah, maybe. I'm not, though. You know, that way, I don't want to sound like that. I mean, we all have that dilemma, don't we? Do we talk about stuff? Do we not? Is it that we default to wanting to be liked? When really, I think, if you have a God, you've got to go with your gut feeling, what's right, what's wrong. And when it's wrong, painful as it is, because you will get into contention, you've got to speak out. Even if you're laughed off the frickin' face of the planet. Will I start on the... My only response to that is the people that got uppity with me for not... Right, I just say to them, right, did you get COVID? And invariably, the answer is yes. And I rest my case, my lord. Shut the fuck up and give the people what they want, Mark. Will do. Hope we talk again. Maybe I've put you off for life. Verbal diarrhea on steroids, says you. And I totally agree with you. You fermenting can of Javanese warthog spittle. See you all soon, chums, I hope.